I'd like to take just a moment, if I may, to comment on the decision by our esteemed ranking member, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Ackerman, who has announced that he will be retiring at the conclusion of this session of Congress. I've enjoyed working with the gentleman a great deal over the years during his service as chairman and ranking member of this subcommittee and on the full committee as well, and in other capacities in the Congress. He's one of the more articulate members of this body and has brought wit and wisdom to our debates, as well as a healthy dose of sarcasm, I would say, when needed. Sometimes maybe not necessarily needed, but usually it's a very good thing. But I've always enjoyed his contributions, and I guess we have plenty of time over the next approximately a year, a number of months yet in this Congress to pay tribute to Mr. Ackerman. In fact, I'm sure we'll probably do nothing more than that for a long time, and that would not be enough, I'm sure, that the gentleman would probably think, before he walks off into the sunset. But in the wake of his recent announcement, I thought it fitting to at least say something, at least briefly now. And I know we all look forward to working with the gentleman for the rest of this Congress, and I know the rest of the members of the subcommittee and the full committee wish him well. So we look forward to working with him in the balance of this Congress. I would now like to yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Ackerman.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and especially thank you for those very kind words. I'm looking forward to working with you under your guidance and the rest of the committee for the rest of the bulk of this year. Don't know what I'm going to do when I leave here, but one thing's for sure, I'm certainly going to miss all of you. A strange narrative has taken root in some circles regarding Iraq. In this telling of events, the colossal failure and unmitigated disaster that was the war in Iraq was just about to turn out to be a huge win for America, until the terrorist-appeasing, freedom-hating, socialist Muslim Barack Obama snatched bitter defeat from the jaws of victory. This tale is untrue. From first to last, it is a lie. Such a lie has to be admired for its audacity, but it remains untrue. Not only in the fervid imaginations of the ideological zealots committed to defending the appalling, wasteful, stupid tragedy that was America's decade of misadventure in Iraq, is any part of this perverse claim true. The very same hucksters of easy glory and empire on the cheap are now selling this bundle of lies to expunge their own responsibility and hang it instead around the neck of the President, who more wisely than many, including myself, opposed the misadventure in Iraq from the first place. For my part, I can only say that after 9/11, as a New York City congressman, I was too ready to believe the Bush administration's warning of an imminent and terrible threat. I was, to be blunt, not prepared to accept that the President and his principal advisors would lie, misrepresent, and deceitfully spin about an undertaking of such magnitude and consequence, but they did. And much worse than the decision to go to war was the tragic, unforgivable ineptitude of both the occupation and the initial counterinsurgency effort. All the many warnings of danger from actual experts on Iraq and post-combat reconstruction, both in and out of government, that were blithely dismissed in the rush to war came back to haunt us as one by one they came to disastrous fruition. We went to war deliberately ignorant and utterly unprepared for the aftermath, and thousands upon thousands of Iraqis have suffered the consequences of our foolish misadventure. Hundreds of thousands became refugees. Thousands were murdered by their own neighbors in vicious ethnic cleansing. Thousands were internally displaced and thrust into bitter poverty. These tragedies, though unintended, lie on our nation. We are responsible. Iraq before the war was an awful place, and Saddam Hussein was vicious, bloody-handed tyrant whose death should not be mourned by none. But our decision to upend, and upon ourselves no less, the seething cauldron of Iraq's sectarian animosity, religious zealotry, and ethnic separatism has to rank as one of the stupidest decisions of American foreign policy. We sent 4,486 of our bravest men and women to their deaths in this farce. More than 32,000 have come home injured, crippled, or partially dismembered. The war in Iraq has cost us more than $800 billion, and the tab is still running, with the President asking for some $2 billion in FY13 to continue our efforts to help Iraq get back on its feet as a unified, independent, minimally functioning state. Our financial obligations to our veterans is also running in the billions and will not be fully paid for 6 or 7 decades to come. So when I hear now the same cheerleaders for this immense and ruinous disaster lamenting the failures of the Obama administration to firmly plant our military in Iraq's bosom, when I hear them decrying this President's so-called failure to understand Iraqi politics, and when I hear them expanding how our righteous powers of coercion could readily set things right in Iraq without cost or complication, I know these ghastly lies for what they are. Iraq's future is in great doubt, and the failure of Iraq's sectarian leaders to forge a more balanced and more viable system for sharing power and resources will continue to produce conflict and stagnation until resolved. I believe we can and should help them where appropriate and consistent with our own national interest and constrained resources. But ultimately, Iraq's affairs are not ours to arrange, and they never rightfully were. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.